In this session, I share with you why you need to have a self-care plan in place, and that is usually the number one reason why most women fail to stick to a self-care routine, right? And you need, more care and not less, especially during stressful times. And having a plan in place helps you to do just that. So if you like what I have to say in this episode, then make sure that you sign up for the free 7-day self-care challenge that I have starting on Monday, the 22nd of February, using the link shared below. So in today's session, I'm talking about a self-care plan. Like, it's kind of a toolkit that you can put in place at any time to help customize what you need from yourself the most. It's an important, and self-care is a very important part of our lives. And what happens is that once you make it a part of your daily routine, you will wonder how you even manage without it. That's certainly true for me. So, because we are aware, right, that we need to take care of ourselves, but most of us have this belief that we don't have enough time, that we lack the time, right? I'm here to tell you that that's not true. You can take care of yourself in as less as 5 minutes in a day. All you need to do is making sure that you have some kind of plan in place. So it's more of a lack of planning than it is a lack of time, right? Because once you are aware of the need to take care of yourself, it's just having the right toolkits. Because what happens is that there are many different kinds of self-care practices, and when we are busy and when things become hectic or when things are difficult, the last thing you want to do is constantly go back and try and figure out what kind of self-care practice you need to take care of, right? I mean, what kind of self-care practice you need to indulge in. So what you want to do at that time is to have something already in place which you can dig into whenever you need to. So you don't have to decide on a constant basis. And then as it becomes a part of your daily life, it becomes that much easier. And that's exactly how it is for me. So for example, in my own life, having a cup of green tea at night before going to bed calms me down, relaxes me, and it's become an integral part of my own self-care routine. I don't even have to think about it. It's become a habit now. So something like that, once you have that in place, it becomes a habit and it becomes a part of your life, right? You don't have to take out time. And also what happens is that no matter how busy you are, once you have first realized the importance of self-care and secondly made it a part of your life, you will become protective of your time. And I can't emphasize this enough for you, right? That you will start protecting the time fiercely because you know how important it is for you. And especially as women, as caregivers, even as mothers, we need to take care of ourselves first so that we can show up for others in a caring and compassionate manner. Whether it's our children, whether it's other family members or the society at large, right? So for me, it looks like this. My Sunday siesta, afternoon nap, is extremely important to me, and I guard it fiercely. I may not be taking a nap every other day, but that day it's important. And there are very few exceptions for which I will give it up. So that's what I'm talking about. That kind of kind of routine I'm talking about, right? So it becomes a part of your life. The other thing is that even before you start, what you need to be very clear of is which are the areas that need most of your attention, because there will be certain areas that you may not be really aware of that actually needs your support. And the four main areas that of our lives that typically need our support in terms of self-care. The first one is physical well-being, right? So this means the food that you're having, the water, the hydration in terms of your water intake, sleep, exercise, relaxation, rest. All of these come in the physical well-being category, and maybe this is an area that you need to address first. The second category is the mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being category. This means that gratitude, meaning, joy, purpose, kindness, creativity. This is the second area, and it might be that you need to focus on this area more, right? And the other areas are taken care of. The third area that you need to also assess would be your professional, work and career related, right? So which means that your relationships with your colleagues, your work satisfaction, your purpose, your meaning, your enjoyment in work, your breaks that you're taking, the boundaries that you're keeping. That's the third area of your life. And the fourth area is your personal, family, and relationships. That means the family network that you have. And do you have a supportive family network? Social life, community, or group interaction, fun, enjoyment with family, right? So all these will be the fourth area. So the four areas that you need to assess. The first and foremost is the physical well-being. The second one is the mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. The third is your work, career, and the last is the personal, professional area. And if you have any questions, just put them on the comment and I will be answering later at the end of the session. So once you have clarity on this, it becomes much easier to put a self-care plan in place and make it work for you. Because what will work for you will not necessarily work for me, and and what will be sustainable for you may not be sustainable for me. That's why it's so important to customize it according to your needs. And as I mentioned, that you need to then also be aware which area needs your support. And what has happened is that over the past several areas, I have fine-tuned my own self-care practice and it has changed over time, and that's bound to happen. So I may not end up doing all of them on a regular basis, but by and large, because I've been doing them for such a long time, they have become an integral part of my life, right? I don't have to think about many of these anymore. And not a day goes by that I do not take care of myself in some form or shape, right? And just sharing with you some examples, right? For example, having a morning routine is important. For me, it looks like doing a bit of journaling, right? Doing a bit of stretching. Maybe I usually try and finish my exercise in the morning. Having a cup of tea with my husband. These are all forms of self-care, right? Self-care is not only about the massage and the spa and the essential oils and the candles. This is self-care. This is what true self-care is about. It is about giving yourself what you need. So that's something that I have put in place, and this works very well for me. It sets the right note for my day, right? Then for me, it looks like taking scheduled breaks during the day, right? So there's a coffee break that my husband and I have in the mornings between 11 and 12. And this is something that we started last year. So may we make sure that no matter how busy we are, and we are lucky that we work in the same office, but on in different organizations, we have our own businesses, but we make sure that we have one coffee break together in the morning and we just catch up, even if it's for just 10-15 minutes. This is a form of self-care. You're connecting with your loved ones, right? I take another scheduled break at 3 o'clock every afternoon. So just to sort of do nothing, just be, right? I don't need to do anything. I have nothing scheduled at that time, again for 10-15 minutes. So, and I also use an app called Pomodoro, which is basically, it's a concept of working in sprints. Because what research shows that when we work in sprints, which is about 25, it can vary from person to person, but by and large, 25 to 45 minutes kind of sprints, our attention and our focus is the highest. And if we can after every sprint, if we can take a break, then we are much more productive than try and finish up everything. Of course, it depends on the project you're working on, it depends on a particular day, but by and large, I find it to be true. So I try and work in sprints. So I have an app which goes off after 25 minutes, then I take a 5-minute break, or maybe I take a longer break. That's a form of self-care for me. So that's how I usually try and schedule my work days. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to work for you. Then the other thing would be for me in the evening is to spend some time with my kids, right? Especially my younger one, the 10-year-old son. And as I mentioned, having an evening routine, which means having some green tea before sleeping, which means that maybe listening to something, some music. I like to light incense, right? Just that helps me soothe my senses, use my sense of smell. Using your senses is another different senses, because we usually end up using only our eyesight. Using a different senses is another beautiful way of taking care of yourself. That's why massages work so well, because we use a different sense at that time. And of course, catching up with my husband at night before going to bed, and also spending some time with my kids before they go to sleep. So these are all forms of self-care. right? So this is what helps you to connect with yourself, with your loved ones, sort of just replenish yourself from your day. So as you can see, this is how I have woven self-care into my daily routine, and you can too. You just need to be aware of which are the areas of your life that needs your care and attention, and then basically learn how you can customize it for your own needs, right? And I'm just going to share a few ideas in these areas, and you can just pick up from here and make it your own. So just to give you some ideas to get you started. So for example, if you're making your own self-care plan, on the physical well-being side, what you can do is just doing a bit of stretching exercises, even if it's just for a few minutes, right? Taking a walk, having a nourishing meal rather than having processed and junk foods, drinking more water, some kind of movement, whether it's walking, whether it's exercise, whether it's jogging, whether it's yoga, it doesn't matter. Just moving your body, getting a massage, right? Spending some time in the sun. This is something that I think most of us struggle with, myself included. So I have to remind myself to do this. Spending some time in nature, that's a form of self-care, right? We are human beings. We are very much a part of nature. We often forget that. Going to bed early and on time when you're tired. So these are some of the physical types of self-care routines that you can put in place. Some of the emotional self-care practices that you can have in your self-care plan is learning how to say no, putting boundaries. In other words, putting boundaries in place, guarding your time with yourself, right? Making it sacred. Intentionally scheduling me time on your calendar, because whatever you don't schedule will typically not get done. And that's why I said that I have scheduled breaks. Rewarding yourself for completing small tasks, right? We often forget that that's something that motivates us. We need to be motivated to keep on moving forward. And that means celebrating those small wins. Developing a relaxing evening ritual, right? Like I have. Doing some kind of creative activity, like some coloring, some other hobby that you may have, right? Maybe making a list, a gratitude list, reminding yourself of all the good things that you already have in your life today. That's a form of self-care, right? And so just these are some of the areas that will help you in the mental, emotional, space, spiritual space. Social self-care, asking for help when you need, right? Asking your loved ones and people you trust for help and support when you're struggling. Calling a family member and talking things out when you need to, right? Choosing who you want to spend your time with today. Making sure that you're spending time with people who lift you up rather than try and drag you down. Joining a support group if you need to, or if you're going through something and if there is a support group, or if not, you can form a support group, and sort of just talk it out. Community is a huge part of our self-care practice and a healing journey. The other thing can be also joining a community who have similar interests like you, right? A particular hobby maybe. So these are all ways that you can focus on the social aspect of your self-care, of your life. Spiritual can be, if it's only spiritual, it can be, of course, meditation, it can be a body scan, just a deep breathing technique, doing something for someone else without expecting anything in return, helping someone, just being kind to others and to yourself, right? So these are just some ideas sort of to get you started. So what I shared with you today was actually giving you ideas to put a self-care plan in place, so that when you actually need it the most, you can just reach into your toolbox and use what works for you, right? You don't have to actually sit down and start from scratch at that time, because what I find is that the reason most people fail to stick to a self-care routine is because they don't plan for it in the first place, right? And that's true for most women, and I'm sure it's true for most men too, because we're busy, right? So having that plan helps us not to constantly have to think about it or constantly have to make decisions, but in fact it helps us to make better decisions, right? Because then you have the clarity, then you're able to decide, you're able to spend your time wisely rather than spending on binge watching or just whiling away your time when you know that you should be going to bed. Having this kind of plan in place, this clarity helps you to do just that. So if you like what I have to say, make sure that you sign up for the free 7-day self-care challenge starting on Monday using the link below, because in that challenge I will also be sharing with you a self-care questionnaire so that you can assess which area of your life needs more of your attention, right? So Mandeep, thank you for joining live today. The green tea that you have mentioned is my favorites are Twining. That I use Twining and Typhoon. These are the two brands that I prefer, and if possible, I try and have organic. I hope that helps, and I will see you here again next Friday.